No, 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 no. Hello everybody, how's Karen and the kids? How's Tiffany's job as a chief diversity officer coming along? COVID-19. I'm sure you've heard of it, considering we've only just got out of our 2-week quarantine from 2020 about 2 years ago. I'm sure we can all remember the inconsistency of government officials, people screeching about how crazy conspiracy theory is, only to be contradicted after the need for fear is gone, and everything else. I bet you also remember the summer of 2020 when all the rioters magically got COVID immunity while we were locked up in our homes, having to watch self-righteous celebrities sing a communist manifesto in order to seem relatable.
Imagine there is no heaven. It's easy if you try.
Yeah, what about it? It's old news. What does that have to do with now?
You may ask. Well, I want you to remember all of it because the pandemic is getting a sequel, boys. Unfortunately, these types of videos aren't exactly my expertise, so I brought a more experienced individual to bring a better perspective to the situation. Allow me to introduce to you the MK Ultra Conservative.
What's up, y'all? The one and only MK Ultra Conservative here. We've got a whole lot to break down for y'all today, so super excited to be here, and thanks for bringing me onto the show.
Hey, and thanks for being here. We'll have a video posted on his channel as well, so be sure to check him out. Another thing I do have to say is, unfortunately, since we're covering such a heavy topic, my editor will have to replace a lot of times I'm talking about the virus with something else, and sections of this video will not be available on this YouTube friendly version, so you will have to watch the full video on my Rumble that you only just now heard about. As we all know,
Cool.
likes to reinvent itself more than a moody teenager who hates their parents and who has access to TikTok.
Anchor partner is a term in polyamory, which is where
And so it shouldn't come as much of a shock that in August of 2023, a new strain of COVID was announced to the world. Of course, because of the new strain, talks of a necessary new vaccine were echoed throughout both the malicious left wing as well as the politically naive and ignorant. Along with this, schools started enforcing mask mandates once more, virtue signaling weirdos started ranting about how they were right to keep wearing a mask, and you can start to hear the faint screaming about a new 2 weeks to stop the spread campaign getting closer and louder, but more on that later. Now, a cynical man, one such as myself, would say that this was no accident. The timing is rather convenient considering that election time is certainly coming around, and we all know what happened last time.
Let's go ahead and rewind the clock for a second back to 2019. We were drawing closer and closer to the end of one of the greatest presidencies in recent memory. Everything seemed to be going right. Progress towards securing the southern border was being made. The economy was in a great place. The world saw a level of peace that had been missing for what seemed like an eternity. Sure, Trump was unpopular among many, but when compared to his competition from the other side of the aisle, his victory seemed almost assured to many of us. We all know, however, this is not what came to fruition. Out of seemingly nowhere, a new virus began spreading rapidly around the world. Throughout 2020, this virus would take over many of our lives. The economy that the Trump administration had done so much for was in shambles. Kids were kicked out of school, people's social lives were killed off completely, and a global fear-mongering level that had not been seen in generations was born. This fear-mongering would go on to allow for complete and global control over the lives of the majority, and they didn't seem to question a thing. This would continue through the 2020 election, where we would see a drastic increase in mail-in voting, which is, of course, completely safe and non-fraudulent at all. That's right, YouTube. Mail-in voting, completely safe. Don't take us down, please. Joe Biden would go on to win the election over Trump with 81 million votes, making him the most popular president in United States history.
Look at that. Oh, are they doing that on purpose? Are they friend or foe? I don't know. I actually felt good. I felt water on my face.
Yeah, that makes sense.
only this time around there were some newer developments. On June 10th of 2023, there came a new CDC director by the name of Mandy Cohen. She was previously the CEO of Alidade Care Solutions, a healthcare company that a company called Omers invested $123 million into. And Omers is a partner at the World Economic Forum. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the World Economic Forum, which, I mean, you probably should have to be honest, I think the gist of its goals can be summed up quite easily.
The World Economic Forum is a transnational organization which has the goal of enforcing certain behaviors which have been deemed beneficial for those at the top of the food chain. At this point, the World Economic Forum has managed to gain a significant influence in nearly every major organization and institution across the Western world. The WEF has managed to become one of the most pivotal chess pieces in installing the woke ideology across our world.
Exactly. Whatever major corporation you can think of, it probably has ties to the World Economic Forum. From Walmart to Sony, the World Economic Forum has their hands in everything. On top of this shady relationship, the CDC director blatantly admits to crafting COVID policies solely based on what her friends are doing.
So I would call, probably the person I called most was the Secretary of Health and Human Services in Massachusetts. She worked for a Republican governor just to, but you know, when she was like, "Are you going to let them have professional football?" And I was really like, "Nope." And she's like, "Okay, neither are we. You know, it was like conversations like that. So, or I'd be like, "So when are you going to think about lightening up a mess?" They're like, "Next Monday." I'm like, "Okay, next Monday."
Which is what we like to call the bandwagon fallacy, or doing something because it's the popular thing to do rather than the right thing to do. This proves that the CDC is simply not science driven and is instead about controlling people. The intentions of this seem to be pretty clear. Klaus Schwab wants to enact the Great Reset for capitalism. What I could do is simply give you a very basic explanation like,
Yeah, so he know like capitalism and he wants to rule Earth.
and for a normal person, that would be pretty sufficient and tell you everything you need to know. However, I think it's time we should take a little deep dive into how the left as a whole works in order to better understand the reset and how it is it are trying to accomplish what it is accomplishing. In summary, the left is using a crisis to obtain more power and influence in order to fulfill their agenda of progress for the sake of progress, and using similar tactics the KGB used to do it. With all of that being said, we still have time to reverse it. There's still hope among our younger generations.
As y'all's resident Gen Z conservative, I'm happy to report there is more than a glimmer of hope in the Gen Z community. While it is certainly true that Gen Z is full of issues such as our extreme mental health problems and this antisocial behavior, which is incredibly prevalent within our generation, there is still an incredibly bright light at the end of the tunnel. Teenage boys are becoming more and more radically conservative, and this isn't just backed up by some obscure study. No, this can be easily observed by simply being around a group of teenagers for 10 minutes. You will never find a more energized and passionate group. These kids have a legitimate shot to change the nation with both their limitless wills and their undying patriotism. These young men are up against the world and they are feeling it. They have grown up in a broken society. They have become atomized and just want to go back to before everything fell apart. Gen Z is full of the most conservative people alive today, and they are the future. Sure, it's true that there is a significant portion of this generation that is incredibly liberal, most notably the women and the gays. Of course, those two groups lean incredibly liberal. We are seeing extreme polarization within Generation Z because, you know, on one end, you have these radically conservative boys who almost want to go back to, you know, early 1900s. A certain radicalism of conservatism that hasn't been fought for or pushed for in the mainstream in a century. Of course, conservatives have lost so much ground because we have this tendency to just try to keep the society where it is at today instead of trying to push back with our own agenda. And these conservative young men are the first ones that are actually taking it to the system and fighting back. And we're actually seeing some change because of this. You know, all these people, they wanted Roe v. Wade changed. Guess what? It happened. The conservative movement is more alive and more well than ever. But it's because we have lost so much ground and because we are so polarized today. It's a dangerous game we are playing, but all hope is not lost, and there is still fighting to be done.
Unfortunately, we still live in the Starbucks sipping, soy chugging, blue hair having, screeching activists that will blindly follow the left. So let's talk about what I think we should call the hypervaxxers. But first, allow me to define the newfound phrase I just made up. A hypervaxxer is someone who blindly follows the government, is probably wearing a mask, double masking even to this day, and is constantly taking vaccines. For a more formal summary, a hypervaxxer acts like a germaphobe, and their ideology mostly arises from COVID era fear mongering. Most of these people fizzled out about 2 years into the COVID scare when they saw firsthand how the government constantly changed their narrative. But there is a cult that lingers. This is normally the part where I would react to some woke TikTok, but I'm not like other guys. So let's move on to the more pressing issue. How do we get out of this cycle of gradually losing our rights as American citizens while our country is in a perpetual state of crisis? According to Bezmanoff, the only way to stop the process now is by violence, but I'm a little more optimistic. We as American citizens need to go out there and peacefully but firmly speak up for what we believe in. We are the silent majority. Most keep their heads down to avoid getting fired or publicly shamed, but we need you, the American citizen, to be unwavering, willing to face ostracization, be steadfast in your beliefs. Only then can we truly recover from where we are today in a corrupt society whose morals are based on pleasure and perversion and self idolatry. Down is the age of the lukewarm conservative who doesn't dare speak against the left wing extremists, the Mitt Romney era of Republicans, and the apathetic attitude towards societal change. If you want to truly make a difference, I suggest getting involved in groups like your local chapter of the Young Republicans, or if you're under 18, the Teenage Republicans. Vote, mail in, or in person. It doesn't matter if mail in voting isn't necessarily secure. It's better than not voting at all, and maybe even running for local government positions and implementing change that way. You can make videos, talk to friends and family, or simply be an example of a happy and healthy life by taking care of yourself and being morally decent. Now, to circle back to peaceful protesting or doing some other thing in public, my definition of peaceful also includes the lawful. So, no blocking traffic intentionally. If you do, then you probably deserve to be run over. I don't care what your political ideology is. If you feel like blocking the road is necessary, though, talk to a local official about legally closing down the road so you can temporarily use it instead of blocking it illegally. All right, guys, that's about it for today. Sorry about my log absence. There should be a part 2 coming out on MK Ultra Conservatives channel. Again, this is a really heavy topic, and we'll discuss the connection between the left and the KGB, as well as how connected the World Economic Forum is with government officials and large corporations. Part 2 will most likely have to be censored as well, so I will provide a link to MK Ultra Conservatives Rumble channel so you can check him out whenever it gets uploaded. Uh, so this script was made before uh, before the events in Israel happened. So I'm not entirely sure if I'll make a video on that. I might. Um, I don't know. It's a pretty sensitive thing. So I'm not entirely sure if I'll make a video on that. But yeah. You all have a good day and stay safe and everything. I'll see you guys later. Probably like a month later, to be honest. I don't even know how long this is gonna.
I appreciate y'all stopping by. You can, of course, find me here on YouTube at MK Ultra Conservative, but also check out my Twitter and Rumble, which you can find in the description of this video. Thanks again for having me on the show, and so long, peace out, and God bless y'all.